Hi, this is Rob Bowron with Sharp College Football. Today, we're going to talk about the Florida Gators and what they might be like in 2020. We're excited to talk about the Gators today because they not working. You got to be kidding. Yeah, no. Hold on one second. Apologies. Oh, I see what I did. Oops. Okay. So we're excited to talk about the Gators today. We have them projected at 11 coming into this season. They've been pretty consistent since Dan Mullen took over. They finished last season at number 8 overall in beta rank. In 2019, they're at as I look at this here, they were at 10 and 18. So they've been really consistent in the spot where they have been. What we'd like about the Gators coming into this season in particular, oh my. Apologies for this. This is ridiculous. Normally I don't mess around with this stuff in scene, and now I have gone and done that for sure. Okay, fixed. Really, I'm truly sorry. So we are really excited about the Gators this season, although we're not really quite as high on them as some other people are. I think a lot of people are, sometimes when they come into the season, they look at who can I pick other than Alabama potentially to come out of the SEC and make the playoff, or Georgia. And Florida seems to be that pick this year, the people that, would like to pick someone other than Alabama or Georgia to make the playoff. Florida is sort of the trendy pick. We do project them to take a little bit of a step back even from where they were last year. They do have some interesting pieces coming back with Kyle Trask. Although I will say, and Pro Football Focus recently released some updated rankings for just for coming into this year. But last year they didn't love what they saw out of Kyle Trask. But the Gators, I think, come in with a solid coaching staff. They've been headed in the right direction. There's definitely a lot to like. And in particular, I think as they improve their coaching and development number, they're going to project better in the rankings than, where they do right now. They do have some remnants of the prior coaching staffs in that coaching and development number. Even though we do have it heavily weighted towards recency to try to really catch as much as possible of what's been happening under Dan Mullen. But they had some real success last season, particularly, in special teams. That unit ended up being their highest graded unit last season at number 7 overall. That's great. You're really helping out both the offense and the defense with what's going on in special teams there, delivering on, field position, field goals, just a real solid job, and an underrated unit. I would say a lot of folks don't pay enough attention to special teams, but they're at 57 in returning production. That puts them squarely sort of in the middle. They don't have, and they're pretty well split. It's not heavily weighted towards one side of the ball or the other. So they've got some coming back on offense. They've got some coming back on defense. They definitely also have some holes to fill. This Gators team, I think, will be interesting, I think, too. They've also had some potential guys that, and this is going to be true of a lot of teams as we get closer to playing, that, may choose to sit out this season. So for Florida in particular, I would keep an eye on that because there has been some talk, of some wide receivers, sitting out the season. So keep an eye on that as you personally also look to project the Florida Gators coming into this year. They're where they sit in, and one of the reasons we don't have them, we kind of have them squarely in the middle on coaching and development, is they do sit at number 9 overall in recruiting in their 2-year rolling recruiting average. Florida recruits really well. They sort of hit right about where you'd expect sometimes, given how well they've recruited. We expect it to improve a little bit with Mullen and Grantham, I think. they will, I think, continue to get a little bit better, and deliver more on the talent that they have there. Mullen certainly was able to do that when he was in Starkville. So we expect that to, really continue here. But it's like I said, like we like the Gators. I wouldn't necessarily, we definitely still have Georgia as sort of the favorite in, the SEC East, particularly after the move that they made at offensive coordinator. Florida's not that far behind in our projections, but we don't have them, winning the SEC, going to the playoff, that kind of thing this year. Which it's not to say, it may still take a little bit for Dan Mullen to get the right players in place, get guys into his system and really get rolling. It'll be interesting to see, if he's able to put that together. I do think that, Florida fans, there's still and rightfully so, this is a plum job in all of college football, sitting in a, deep recruiting base. And it's not just, I do think that there's Bud Elliott, who's a writer at 24/7, tracks, specifically, whether, Florida schools are able to keep Sunshine State recruits in state. It's not just Florida that's struggled with that a little bit. It's also been Florida State and Miami that really haven't been pulling their weight in state of late. I said, it's a really plum job, sitting in very fertile recruiting grounds. I said the first word wrong and then I followed it up saying the second word wrong. Fertile recruiting grounds, not futile recruiting grounds. And with that, and the kind of, dollars that come behind the staff, the facilities, come very, very high expectations. And Mullen knew that. He'd been at Florida before and been very successful there. So he knew what was coming back to take this job. He's, there's no two ways about it. You have to feel like Mullen has done a real solid job with his Florida program. So we are excited to continue to see them develop and progress. I think they are going to, I think this season in particular, if they are able to hold serve or improve on where we have them projected at number 11, end up inside the top 10, that's going to be a really solid season for this Florida squad. And then you really start, thinking like, all right, Mullen might have a shot to really get this rolling. So let's go ahead and look at all the advanced stats that we have on them for last year. Whoops, wrong one. I'm just on a roll tonight, but the audio is good. So I fixed this. I think I really did fix the underwater snapping, crackling, popping. It was not Rice Krispies. It was in fact the OBS compression filter. Just not good. So we're not using that anymore. So last season, Florida had a really good offense. Number 9 overall in beta rank. What they really struggled with, if you could say struggled compared to their other numbers, was drive efficiency. They need to clean up a little bit of the play calling, consistency. They need to be able to put together long drives, and they struggled with that a little bit last season. Some of that's, on the quarterback play and the offensive line. Number 9 in explosive drives, they really were good at putting up big plays last season. Good at play efficiency. Like, they got a real solid yards per play when you were controlling for opponent. Number 9 in negative drives. Didn't have a lot of 3 and outs coming off the bench, not a lot of turnovers, did some smart things with the ball, huge split here. And it's interesting because the year before they actually had a huge split going the other direction. So you can see some of the development here, but 91 in effective rush, number 5 in effective pass. Dan Mullen, will skin the cat however he can get there. He will run the ball or he will throw the ball, whatever he's got to get, whatever tools he has to get it done, he's going to go with. So you like a lot of these numbers coming in. It's interesting because, more often than not, you see relative consistency between, and we use, I'll go grab the numbers that are publicly available from Pro Football Focus and often use those. But the numbers that are coming off of the tape grades and, the numbers that are coming out of advanced stats often align pretty well. Man, on this Florida offense, they really don't. So this is Dan Mullen is either a just unbelievable magician, and that could absolutely be true, or, I think we have to look at this and maybe reconsider some of these grades here, from Pro Football Focus, because I don't know if they're quite in line with where I would expect Unless, and Florida does have some terrific skill position players, but they, in order for this to be true, they would have had to have been, really just magical. The grade it's 66 for Pro Football Focus at QB for Kyle Trask and Felipe Franks is somewhat fair. I mean, they really ding Trask for having a lot of turnover worthy throws, 22 of them over the season, as opposed to just 9, what they, call big time throws in the tape. He's going to have to, improve over the season, or, he could find himself in a position where he could lose his job, because they do have some young talent behind him that could potentially see the field. So I expect Trask to continue to develop. The completion percentage is not everything, right? And completion percentage in particular is not the same thing as accuracy. But that said, I mean, he had a pretty decent completion percentage last season. He does have to work on some of his decision making and some of his accuracy. It's often tough, though, for quarterbacks at this point to really improve on their accuracy. That they tend to either have it or they don't. So for Trask and this, Florida offense, I do think that there's potential room to improve still off of where they were last season. And I think Mullen and the guys that he, in theory, shares play calling duties with, have done a good job, really putting this offense together. Where they struggled last season, according to Pro Football Focus, the most was at the offensive line. You could really see with their run number, like where a lot of the really bad grade comes from. They were at 92 in Pro Football Focus's offensive line grade. Really just not able to run the ball very well at all. They had them graded out a little better passing the ball, and you could see that actually, held a little bit. So if you look at Florida's offense, and you're going to say, maybe their offensive line wasn't 92, but they weren't great. And they particularly stunk at run blocking, and they were, a little better at pass blocking. What you can see here is that, as you go through, Trask wasn't asked to make a lot of really deep throws. He often probably didn't have time to make a lot of deep throws last year. What you're really looking at is a lot of short throws out to high, like great skill position players, and then you get some yards after the catch in there. That's going to help your completion percentage, and if you do it right, you can be a very efficient offense doing that. But it's going to be tough in the SEC to really get by with a quarterback that's, making that many throws that could lead to a turnover, and an offensive line that, is a liability instead of an asset. So Florida's got some growth to do on this side of the ball too. I mean, I think the fact that they were able to accomplish what they did, in the advanced stats last season with a solid offensive number, really being able to put up points consistently, against quality opponents, regardless of field position, I think that speaks really well of the staff. Now they got to develop these guys a little more. They've got to, deliver, because you're not always going to be able to sort of pull the rabbit out of the hat that in a way that you could argue that Mullen and staff were able to last year. And Mullen, still is, he's listed as the offensive play caller. He shares duties with John Hevesy and Billy Gonzalez. They're the co-offensive coordinators. Mullen, I believe, is still the primary play caller for the offense. So they're at 67 in returning production. They return a little more than half of their production for next season, including Kyle Trask. I mean, there's some reason for real optimism about this Florida offense. I struggle to, because Georgia's got just a world of talent too. And what killed them last season was just horrific offensive play calling. With a new play caller on, Florida is going to have to, the bar is probably going to be a little bit higher than it was last year to catch the Bulldogs. So Florida's going to have to step up. I don't know if you're going to squeeze a lot more out of scheme and play calling beyond what they were able to deliver last year. The offensive line and Trask really have to develop, more, and then that'll allow them to be more flexible, more interesting, do more. Trask will be able to hang in there and take more deep shots, down the field, and any kind of running game that could help him out and allow them to do some play action, I think would certainly be good. So on the defensive side of the ball, pretty good. Number 16 overall, that's not, we're not talking about a top 5 defense here, but a good defense nonetheless. Todd Grantham is the defensive coordinator. He's been around. Todd Grantham's been around a long time. For a reason, really successful DC. They were at number 9 in 2018 overall. So you absolutely look at this defense and think like they could be another top 10 defense, for sure. Where they struggled last season, as the offense did, was on drive efficiency. They were susceptible to giving up some long drives, really and that controls for opponent and field position. So they were, more, where they gave up points more often than not was, teams being able to put together drives on them. It's going to be consistency. It's going to be timely play calling that's going to, find a way to get off the field, use the field to your advantage. Florida's got to be a little bit better at that next year. Explosive drives, that one kind of stinks too. I mean, relative to their other numbers, there are a lot of teams in college football that would absolutely take this chart for one of their units. So I feel like I'm being like nitpicky, but because we've previewed some teams that have far worse units than this. But just too many big plays. They're going to have to cut this down if they really want to get back into the top 10 and maybe push for a top 5 defense. The play efficiency, it's all right. It's not the most important metric in beta rank, but their yards per play, controlling for opponent and field position, they could certainly improve on that again. Where they shined last season as a defense was negative drives. They caused a lot of 3 and outs, caused some turnovers. I mean, this defense was able to come up with big plays. They came off the bench with a plan. And they were able to shut down the offense and deliver, good field position back to their offense. They did struggle a little more against the pass than against the run. Neither of those numbers is, huge. They're just going to have to get better, I think, next year in both phases of the game, against the run and the pass. I think that they likely can. They're at 53 overall in returning production. On defense, that puts them closer to 60% of their defensive production returning. You really like, I think, what Grantham's got going. I think that they can continue to develop players here, and if they can, in particular, I think clean up a little bit on the pass, coverage on the back end, then this Florida team, I think, on the defensive side could push for, in the top 10 again. I mean, we're really talking about like Florida's upside might be number 5, in beta rank coming into this year. It's hard to see, because Joe Burrow's issues with that LSU offense, in 2018 weren't really accuracy. It's hard to see Trask making that kind of leap to where they might be able to potentially compete with some of the other really, excellent offenses that are going to be out there. But I think Florida has the potential to end up in that, 7-6-5 range in beta rank for sure. So let's take a look at the schedule. At least so this, of course, is the schedule that was. And we always still give a nod to the schedule that was, in our dreams anyway. I would have actually been bummed to see. I mean, it would have been the game to watch on that September 12th weekend. For me, it would have been that Florida Kentucky game. It also would have been we don't have the FCS games on here, so the Florida also had a game before that on the schedule, but to see them really open up against FBS competition and have it be Kentucky, who we also think could potentially, with Wilson coming back at QB and as good as they were running the football last year, with 4 back on the O-line that was so dominant last year. I mean, that Kentucky team is potentially our dark horse, or a solid dark horse in the SEC East. That would have been a fun game to see really early on. So the schedule that is this. So let's wait. So Florida against this schedule here would have projected, when you add in the FCS game, at a real solid, win, overall expected wins at 9.28 wins overall, which would be good. I mean, if you're a Florida fan, looking at the schedule and thinking like you could get to 9 expected wins, like they're going to be favored in most of their games. Really, that Georgia game is the only game when you look through that schedule, and the LSU game that they wouldn't be favorites in. That's really something to hang your hat on in the SEC to be able to be projected at nearly 10 wins. And when you are projected like this, 10 wins becomes, very, very achievable. So the schedule that is different. So we do like Florida versus Ole Miss, even on the road. We'll take that at almost 7 points there. South Carolina, that that game is, I can't see what I had. That game, yeah. So we've got that at one at 11, almost 12. That one's going to be a little bit, let me just wrap this so oh no, that's not it. There we go. Okay. That game we do expect to be a little, to be a little bit like Florida should be able to run away with that game. This isn't the days with Steve Spurrier there torturing his former team. A&M, this is a game that was added to the schedule. This is a tough one that got added on there. So A&M projects to be pretty good this coming year. They've got a lot back. They've been developing and recruiting really well. Jimbo Fisher, I think, has done a really good job getting that program turned around. Florida has a 39% win probability in that game, which puts it close. It's right around, 3 points. A&M would be the favorite on the, Florida on the road there. That's absolutely that's not something where, Florida's going to show up and, they even potentially need to be +1 on turnovers to win that game. That game is, we do expect to be a tight game there. LSU, Florida's traditional cross-conference rival. LSU is a little bit of a mystery with everything that they're losing, but we still have them projected as a slight favorite on the road. It is tough to tell, given how much LSU has lost, what they might be like without Joe Brady calling passing, obvious passing plays on third down. But really, how much did they incorporate from what they learned from Brady last season? Where's the defense? LSU's got a lot of uncertainty around it. With that, I might put that game, really as a toss up right now. Missouri, Florida's, I think that Missouri under Drinkwitz is going to be better. I don't know that they're going to take the kind of step forward on offense that Louisville did last season under Satterfield. I put them, and I would have it at, I think that 14.5 is actually pretty fair for Missouri. Georgia, this game, is, we have Georgia is about a little more than a 4-point favorite. Georgia's projected at number 6 in beta rank coming into this year. There is some potential for Georgia to even be slightly under projected. They have recruited so well. They have generally done a very good job of developing players. And really last season, they handed the offense to somebody they shouldn't have handed it to and just drove it into a ditch. So if Georgia's able to get the offense, really going, this season, then they potentially, this could be a little more, maybe even than 4 points by the time it's played. Arkansas, yeah, you're going to beat Arkansas. Arkansas, Florida has a 90% win probability. We have them roughly as a 15-point favorite in that game. Vanderbilt, yes. And it'll be in Nashville. So, Nashville, that would, like, if you're, it's an opportunity to potentially go to Nashville, so that's fun. But 21 points, like, Florida should run away with that one against the Doors. Again, that Kentucky game, I might have this because I do think that the model's underrating Kentucky a little bit. It didn't see the model, neither in-season model nor projection model sees the Wilson injury. I think this could be closer to 2.5 for Kentucky there. And then Tennessee, we do expect Tennessee to take a little bit of a step forward off of where they were last year, but I think a lot of people are higher on the Vols than maybe I would be at this point, and where the projection model certainly has them. This 7 points feels pretty fair for where Tennessee is. So with that, what this puts us at for Florida. Let me see that. And 1 second. So that puts us at 7.88 expected win, really believe, for this Florida team. Is that right? Yes. 7.88 wins overall, which is good. Again, as we talked about, you're really, you're not really out of any of these games. And you're still, even in a lot of these SEC games, you're still a big favorite in a lot of these games. So, we like this Florida squad, to potentially do pretty well against the schedule that they have right now from the SEC. So, yeah. Anyway, let's wrap this up on Florida. All right, so we're gonna re-record that conclusion because in the scene switching, somehow the audio just goes to heck. So apparently I don't have it figured out, and I got to figure it out. So on the Gators, what should you look for if you want to see that they're making progress and might beat the projection we have for them here at number 11? So the first thing, of course, you want to see that the offensive line's really improved. That's pretty easy to see. You should be able to see that no matter, even if you don't have the all-22. So for the Gators there, we really need to see them improve on their run blocking in particular. Their pass protection would also be good. Giving Kyle Trask more time, giving him some play action that he might be able to work with is really going to, lead this offense for what they were able to do last season, really using a lot of scheme and play calling to get where they were. Be able to improve even further and potentially get in the top 5 range. And then for Kyle Trask, you really want to see fewer turnover worthy throws. I mean, like fewer throws that are kind of, make you scratch your head. If the offensive line improves, he's going to have the opportunity to put the ball down the field more. Then in that case, he's really got to cash it in and make the defense pay when he has those opportunities. So if they do that, given I think where they've really been development wise and scheme wise, I think that they'll be quite successful in 2020. On the defensive side of the ball, I'd really like to see them clean up the pass coverage a bit. You will see this because you won't have the all-22 necessarily in the game. What you'll see you'll see the quarterback going through their progressions and holding the ball a little bit longer. If you watch the quarterback's head, if he's going through and he's not finding guys open on his first, second read, that means that the pass coverage is doing a good job. They're slowing down the QB. They're making him more susceptible to the pass rush. That's going to improve the defense overall if they're able to do that. So that's what I would look for there. Their number wasn't bad last season there, but it could certainly improve. And if they want to have a top 10 defense again, both the pass and the run defense are going to have to get a lot better. So, I really do think that they could potentially, be a top 5 team, coming into this year. Like we talked about that their range might, their max might be number 5 coming into this year, given where they kind of were on the offensive line last year and with Trask. But, Mullen's done a heck of a job, and I think he's got a solid staff put together. They have a great record of play development that they bring with them from Mississippi State. They've got a solid scheme. He definitely knows what he's doing. And I think he's got an opportunity to put it together there and maybe potentially compete for national titles at Florida. So there's really a lot to like here for this Florida squad as they come into next year. So tomorrow we're actually going to be doing Auburn, I believe. Let me double check that we are doing Auburn. We are. So tomorrow we'll be doing Auburn, the Auburn Tigers, another SEC team, and then we'll have another SEC team right after that, and LSU. But keep tuning in. We're excited to keep going through this. I have that off. All right. Now, you find all the stats you just saw and a lot more at sharpcollegefootball.com. I'm Rob Bowron. I'm the econometrician behind BetaRank, and I tweet out from @BetaRankFB. I also handle the tweets from @SharpCollegeFootball. You can find all this, we have a Pac-12 podcast at 12 Pack Radio. And you can find all the back episodes of that podcast at sharpcollegefootball.com/12 Pack Radio. So thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you again tomorrow, and stay safe out there.